I'm going to get right to it. This is SH MonsterArts Godzilla. This is the first release that they did from the '94 movie Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla. This was, I think, the first figure, well, if not the first figure in the MonsterArts line, it's the first figure in the Godzilla series. But this is kind of the one that paved the way for all the rest of them to come out. I'm not going to talk like too greatly in detail about it. I'm just going to kind of give you my opinion of it. This one, when it came out, was absolutely amazing, and it's still really nice. I mean, I'm not going to try and downplay it here. You can see you can get like the mouth open. He's got like 3 or 4 different joints in the neck, so you got all kinds of like range of motion. The arms articulate pretty much any way you'd want. The tail, each of these little segments here is all one individual joint, pretty much up until you get to here. Like the back end of the tail from about here to here is just one piece. But that said, you can get the tail in just about any pose you want. The legs are a little bit restricted because of the way the body is molded. So you can't quite get them to like step forward as well as I might have liked, but besides that, that's really my only like gripe with the figure. So this guy comes with the atomic breath effect, and it comes on this little stand here that looks like it's, I don't know, water or something that's being raised up because of the atomic breath. So you could display him just like blasting somebody or destroying a building or whatever the case. This guy, when he came out, was, I can't remember, like 70 bucks maybe. I don't know how much he goes for now because MonsterArts, a lot of the time, they increase in value after the fact. So if you're going to try and get a hold of this guy, he might cost you a little more now. I believe he's also the only one that comes with the atomic breath effect. I know if you buy Fire Rodan, you can get a red one that's meant for, you know, this guy and the Burning Godzilla. The Burning Godzilla, I'm going to mention, is very similar to this one. I think he's a little stockier, like he's bigger in the legs, and he's got different paint. That's the reason for that is because he's from the following movie, where Godzilla is like actually physically burning up. So they painted like orange and red accents on him to make him look like he's actually, you know, burning. But the reason I mention him is because they're actually redoing the Burning Godzilla in this color scheme, and I believe that's coming out at the end of the year. So if you missed out on this guy, no big deal. You can pretty much still get the same figure, just with that Burning Godzilla mold, which, like I said, is a little stockier, but I want to say it actually articulates a little better. Like, you can get more range of motion out of it, because that was a later release, so they'd kind of had time to like correct some of the things that maybe they didn't get right on this guy. But that said, this guy, really awesome. I highly recommend you grab him if you get the chance, and if you get him cheap, go for it. And like I said, he comes with the atomic breath, so if you like to display him with stuff like that, there you go. Perfect. Speaking of displays, all this stuff in the background, I already did a video about that, so I'm not going to talk too greatly about that. But, you know, I'll just link that video. This was the first release, SH MonsterArts Godzilla. Moving on, here's the classic Godzilla. I think this is 64, so that would have made him from Godzilla vs. Mothra, the original one. Now this is the only, so far, the only like classic 60s and 70s era Godzilla we've got from MonsterArts anyway. This guy is This guy is the smallest Godzilla, but that makes him also like the cheapest one too. I think he was only like 65 bucks when he came out. As you'll see, by the way, all these pieces of the tail, like they do break, not break, but I mean they're all on ball joints like that. You can kind of see. And each of these things, these rings, just kind of like rest on the ball joint. So if you accidentally pop one off, just be careful not to lose the rings that go over it. But they're easily, you know, put back together, as you can see. Just be careful. Anyway, the classic Godzilla, they improved on the '94 Godzilla quite a bit, I think. He gets a lot better range of motion in his shoulders, and especially in his legs. Like, he can actually like lift his leg way up, and you can get a lot of different kind of fighting grounded poses with him. And besides that, he maintains all of the same points of articulation as the bigger one, I think. He just, it kind of expands more. Like they actually, I don't know, I guess they just executed it better, except for this tail that keeps breaking. But, you know, that's just from me messing with it. What's cool about this guy, again, he doesn't come with the atomic breath or anything, but he's also, like I mentioned, the cheapest one, and you might even still be able to get him for a reasonable price. And as far as like classic Godzilla goes, this is like the Godzilla that I watched as a kid all the time, because I only had VHS tapes of the Godzilla movies. I had no idea that Toho was still even making Godzilla movies when I was a kid, so I didn't figure that out until they started coming out on like DVD and stuff. But yeah, this guy, really cool. Again, maybe a little small for some people's tastes, but, you know, it is what it is, and I really think it came out great. So moving on, this is the Millennium Godzilla, aka Godzilla 2000, I guess. He is much, I think he's the biggest one they've made. Look at him, he's already toppling buildings. He's, I believe, the biggest one thus far that MonsterArts has made. As far as length goes, he's longer than the 94 Godzilla. He's about as tall, if you get him standing upright, as the 94 Godzilla, but he's also like a little wider in the hips, and I think the shoulders might be a little bit broader as well. And these fins on his back are just huge. Like, they're just literally the same size as his stomach is the biggest fin. Because he's so much bigger, he was a little more expensive. In fact, he's a lot more expensive now because he's kind of aftermarket prices. Some of the things they changed about him were the joints in the wrists are now, what do you call it? There's like a hinge in there too. I don't know if, well, you probably won't be able to see it. Matter of fact, I can't even see it. Where'd he go? Oh, okay, there you go. So you can see, like, not only is it a ball joint, but it's hinged too, so you can kind of get his wrist in pretty much any position you could want. He also has a tongue in there that actually moves, which is pretty cool. A big, I don't know about a big addition from the other Godzillas, but definitely something that's pretty interesting to note. This guy was the first one that I bought for myself. Those other ones that I'd shown were my roommate's Godzillas. And I'm going to warn you right now, if you buy one MonsterArts, you're going to want to buy more. I already bought 2 more. One is in the living room, and one is on its way. So I'm not going to talk too much about those figures because they didn't appear in the Dimension War video. So, you know, maybe wait around for the sequel for that video. But yeah, if I had to pick just one of these 3 Godzillas that I talked about, I really couldn't honestly give you an answer. It kind of depends on which Godzilla you grew up with and which movies maybe you like better. Or maybe if you're just a fan of a certain design for Godzilla. Some people like the old school, you know, 60s and 70s Godzilla where you would kind of like kickbox his opponents and just beat the hell out of them. Some people like the newer Godzillas where they just blast through everything and just destroy the entire city on their way. It's really up to you. I can tell you, though, that whatever figure you get, you're not going to be disappointed at all. Anyway, that was all the ones that I've used in the Dimension War video, and I got a little bonus for you. Let's check that out. And we got a bonus. Now, this is the NECA 2014 Godzilla from the movie that just came out, which I'm sure that many of you watching this video have either already seen or want to see. I mean, why else would you have watched this video so far, unless you're a Godzilla fan? But he is basically the same size as the MonsterArts figures that I was just showing you. He's nowhere near as many points of articulation, but he still possesses a lot of the same range of motion. It's just not quite as, I don't want to say not quite as well done, because you can still get all the movement out of him, but, you know, SH MonsterArts just, like, hides the articulation better, I think. That said, though, this NECA guy is really nice. Like, the main differences between the articulation, like, in the neck of this one, he's got, like, an articulation point right below the base of the skull, and right above, like, the collarbone. So he's basically got 2. But that said, you can still get him in just about any of the same poses as you can the MonsterArts ones. It's just not quite as seamless. And the jaw opens up and stuff, too. And, you can actually get really good range of motion out of the shoulders, too. I don't know if these are, like, ball joints in here, or, like, butterfly joints. I'm not sure. I mean, you can have him, like, in kind of a classic Godzilla pose, or you can drop his arms down like how he was in the 2014 movie. He kind of like stood there like almost like a bear on his back legs with his arms like kind of hanging down in front of him. The biggest difference between this and the NECA or the MonsterArts figures, I should say the biggest difference is about between $50 and $65, but mainly the differences between the figures themselves are the tail. This one has individual joints here, here, and here. And then from this point on, it's a rubber tail that pops in when you buy the figure. And it's got like a wire in there so you can get some, you know, it bends pretty well. But it doesn't have the individual like joints in the tail. So you might have a little harder of a time getting it to bend and manipulate compared to like the MonsterArts ones. But that said, this is still a really good figure, especially for the price. I mean, you're going to pay $18.99 for him if you see him in Toys R Us or somewhere. I actually got him for $15 on the dot because they were running a 25% off sale. So it worked out to about that. So I was definitely happy. Is he as good as the MonsterArts? Absolutely not, because MonsterArts are in a league of their own. But is he a bad figure? Not at all. I really think that this guy came out well. If you're interested, MonsterArts is making one of these guys that's coming out at the end of the year, and he's available for pre-order. I'm probably not going to get it, but I also said I wasn't going to get the Millennium Godzilla, so look where that led me. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed looking at these guys, and by the way, there have been people that have commented on the Dimension War video asking how come I didn't use the legendary 2014 Godzilla in that movie, that video that I made. The reason being is I was filming that in like March and April, and not even April. I think I was just filming it all through March. This guy hadn't come out yet. There was no figure of the legendary Godzilla yet, so that's the reason. That's pretty much the only reason why it wasn't in there. I'm sure I could have worked him in there somehow. But yeah, so that was the review of all three of the MonsterArts Godzillas that were in the Dimension War video. I can't remember the name of my own video. And this guy, the NECA 2014 Godzilla. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you want? Which one would you like if you woke up Christmas morning and there was one Godzilla under the tree? Which one would you want it to be? Ladies and gentlemen, leave me a comment. If you want to go back and watch Dimension War, that link is right here. If you want to watch the making of Dimension War, that link is right here. I don't know why I'm putting them in weird places, but here you go. Anyway, take care, and we'll see you next time.